Welcome back to continuing coverage of our top 64. Are you excited, Jonti, for the day?
Very much so. Yeah. Welcome back, folks. Thank you for joining us for day 2. And we're moving in. Like you say, top 64. Everyone here is walking away with some pretty awesome prizing already. But just those last few games are going to really start to bump up the what you're walking away with. It's pretty impressive.
And there are some amazing prizes. Those promo cards are beautiful. I've seen some people sharing the videos, and they look amazing.
The gold BLT just slowly, that brave little Taylor just slowly rocking there. I could have watched that. I could have watched that for hours.
Yes. Yeah, I can't wait. I want to see that one in person. So hopefully I'll make it there in person one of these days.
Awesome.
But we have our next match ready to go. We have our number 1 seed getting ready to face off with a seed 64, Jonathan versus Ivan. Can you tell us a little bit about these players?
Yeah, sure thing. So the way the seeding works then is how you finish the day in day 1. That's 64 placement. That is how you're going to move into your first games, and it sort of works as like an outside in. So top seed number 1 will play 64. We just saw seed 5 against seed 60, and it kind of works its way down like so. And if you are the higher seed in that game, you are going to be able to choose to go first. So that's why a lot of people will play out their few final games just to get that extra little edge onto the second day. So Jonathan going in here, seed 1 was the only undefeated player by round 6, and then I think split the last few games to sort of recharge the batteries or what have you. So going in here with a really fantastic record, but obviously both players getting to this point is already a huge win for them both. So
really impressive.
Let's go in and see what they can do.
Absolutely. So, Jonathan, we did see him playing the Amethyst Emerald deck, and Ivan is running a Ruby Sapphire. So we'll see how these. What do you think this matchup is looking like with these two deck lists?
I think Jonathan's going to want to come out the gate pretty quick here, get some good questers down early. Sapphire, Ruby just really starts to run the late game here. So Jonathan is going to want to shift this tempo into an early lead. He's going to want to be dropping those Ursula 2-drops and pulling some of the songs out of Ivan's hand. Obviously, the big one, the big red button of Be Prepared, but also there's one jump ahead, How Far I'll Goes. There's a lot of stuff there that you can take pretty early and slow down that ramping that Ivan is most definitely going to want to be doing. So we see a turn 1 Curse Merfolk from Jonathan and a turn 1 we forget to draw, but that's okay. We'll correct that. And then a turn 1 Porpsicle from Ivan. Yeah, we're just correcting that because Porpsicle does draw a card. So Ivan's just making it very clear there as to what he's drawing the cards for.
Yeah. Now, it's interesting in the Ruby Sapphire deck, there's actually no turn 1 characters. What is the strategy there with this deck of just having the Popsicle? And I believe he has one other 1-drop card, Develop Your Brain, but no characters actually.
Yeah, that's it. There is a couple of Shield of Virtues in there as well. But yeah, this deck is all about getting to the late game much quicker than you would normally. So it's just ramp. Ramp is the word we use for just increasing resources quicker than you normally would. So we're just going to be getting as many cards into the Inkwell as possible. And just being able to play really big hitters, so big questers, big challengers much earlier in the game than you would expect, and hopefully overrun your opponents who probably needs that mid game to build up the board a little bit more.
Yes, and we saw Jonathan play that Ursula Deceiver there, so we got to take a look at Ivan's hand, and unfortunately there weren't any songs, but that does give Jonathan a lot of information, which is really good, especially early in the game.
Yeah, you're really hoping to see something like a 1 jump ahead or a How Far I'll Go there to sort of slow down the ramp that Ivan wants to do. But you don't mind not seeing one because it does mean that he's not going to be able to use those for the ramp. Instead, we see a Hiram Flavisham going into the Inkwell and then a Queen of Hearts. This is a bit of a techie piece, this one, I think. It's there to answer early threats from the opponent's board. It's just a 2/2 with Rush, so it's able to come out and challenge the turn it's played, and it does so here into the Merfolk. And then Ivan pitches a Be Prepared. Again, incredibly strong card, but it's a long way off yet, especially with missing those ramping songs that he wants to see.
Yeah, so he hasn't seen much ramp yet in this deck, so hopefully he can get something, like you said, the 1 jump ahead, something there to build up his Inkwell.
Yeah, and then Jonathan is just sticking to the course here. We're going to get a Flynn Rider down and just keep putting threats on the board, keep having those questers, and Ursula even questing there. I guess she's done her job at this point. She's looked at the hand to go for those songs and didn't hit one. So at this point, if it's just a lore and then the Queen of Hearts goes into her in a challenge, you don't really mind there. You've kind of got the value out of her at this point. And again, just that early lore lead is what's going to win this game for Jonathan. Is what he's thinking here. Get as much lore as possible. Get into the double digits before Ivan's deck is online. So we see a Shield of Virtue going down for a Fishbone Quill. So now we can really start up with the Ram. Fishbone Quill is an item that says you can exert it to place a card face down into your Inkwell, and it's unexerted. It's one of the best ramp cards in the game, honestly, because you can turn it on the second it comes down into play, and it lets you play the ink unexerted. A lot of the ramp cards bring the ink in exerted, so it's not able to be online until next turn. Here, the Fishbone is just letting you get that ramp and start using it straight away.
Yeah, and Fishbone also doesn't force you to reveal the card either. So it can be an inkable or an uninkable card, and your opponent doesn't know what's going into your inkwell either.
Yeah, it's really good. It's one of the reasons you can play a slightly higher uninkable count in this deck, just because you can pop them down into the ink with the Fishbone, like we're seeing here. Jonathan got down a Queen's Castle, great great turn 4, excuse me, against this deck, because there just isn't that many threats to deal with it in this deck. There isn't any location removal. It's going to have to be taken out by some characters, which we do see a Maui coming down here.
Yep.
And the Queen of Hearts going in. So yeah, Ivan had the answer there. Kind of a perfect play for him, really, at this point, just able to deal with it.
Yeah,
we have we're good.
I know that Maui has become a little bit of a meme, with everything dies to Maui, but he is such a good card. He's a demigod, which we expect from Moana.
Yeah.
So he does a lot of work, and really, taking out that Queen's Castle right away was really smart on Ivan's part. Jonathan does have that Flynn over there, which again gains 2 lore each turn. But yeah, that Queen's Castle going is a bit of a bummer.
Yeah, we see a goat come down here. That may have been the other option on turn 4 for Jonathan, but with that castle coming down, you're kind of having to have Ivan have the answer. Do you have the Maui here, or am I going to start getting value out of this? He did, and that's fine. And instead, we'll just continue to build up our board state with a goat. We're questing here with Flynn, so we're already looking at double figures of lore. Jonathan's very aware that the longer this game goes on, the more and more Ivan is going to be able to take hold of it with the sort of larger drops. Now we're up into 6, possible 7 ink here if we activate the Fishbone Quill, but there's a good chance we might just see 6 and then go into, okay, so instead we're seeing a Hiram Flavisham. First one we've seen. On this side of the commentator box today. He's an absolutely fantastic card in Sapphire. He comes down and instantly banishes a item to let you draw 2, and then he's able to do that every time he quests as well. So that Pulpsicle, great turn 1 play, just comes down and refills your hand a little bit, and then he just sits and waits for Hiram to come down and start tearing him apart in his workshop.
And I think that was a really smart play there to play the Harem, banish Popsicle, so he's able to draw those 2 cards before banishing Flynn with Maui, because, of course, Flynn does force you to discard a card from your hand when he gets challenged. So I gave Ivan a few more options to choose what he wanted to discard there.
Exactly. Yeah, that's a really great point. A lot of the time you will try and do as much as you can on the board before extending your board. Usually that's a good line of play, because as you're challenging, you want to try and give your opponents as little information about your deck and your hand as possible. So normally you would do a lot of challenging and then bring down other things. But you're exactly right there. The Hiram just giving 2 cards into the hand, just giving them the more options. Yeah, it's a really great play. Well spotted.
Yeah. Now Ivan is sitting at 1 lore here, and Jonathan, of course, with this deck that has a lot of questers. How do you think Ivan is feeling? What's his play here? What's his line of that he's thinking?
It's interesting because you're right. It seems like he's so far away, but the longer this game goes on, the quicker the Ruby Sapphire deck can just get online. Ivan is most definitely going to be running Lucky Dimes and some of the larger bodies like Monstrous Dragon, Tamatoa, and things like this. So very quickly you can see this deck gaining double figures of lore in a single turn with stuff that wasn't on the board at the start of the turn. It really can very quickly get up there. Jonathan's going to be very aware of this, and he's just going to have to keep pushing that lore total up as much as he can. But obviously, at this point, with that Maui sat there, and even with that Queen of Hearts sat there, from very earlier on in the game, anything that Jonathan quests with is going to start to start to be at a disadvantage against Ivan's challengers. We do see a Lyle. We were super impressed to see
Lyle.
this yesterday.
Yes.
We were ready for it today. Lyle Tiberius Morgan, awesome, a card who is able to give something reckless as soon as it comes out, and the perfect target here is Hiram, because reckless makes a card have to challenge if it's able to. So that's really quite important because
Really smart.
it's really, really smart, because not only does it have to challenge, it means it can't quest. And that is really the key thing here, because Hiram's ability is on quest. So even if Ivan finds a way for Hiram not to have to challenge, maybe using him to sing a song, he's just not able to quest and and pop that Porpsicle there, banish that Porpsicle for some card draw. So really great play here, giving the Hiram reckless, and here not having a target for him to hit either. So
Yes, absolutely. That was a great play. And if, for anyone who doesn't know, Harem Flaversham is from The Great Mouse Detective, which is, I think, a little known Disney movie. So it's great to see some characters from that movie in this game. The team at Disney Lorcana is kind of pulling not just from, the Aladdin, Beauty and the Beast, but also from some of the lesser known movies here.
absolutely, it's one of my
And giving
favorite
them some
things about the
great
game.
abilities. Yeah.
Yeah, that's it. Not only are we seeing these sort of slightly deeper cuts on characters, they're very playable as well. It would be very easy for this game to just make all of the amazing, mechanically amazing characters be all of the big characters that we expect them to be. The heroes and the villains of the series. But yeah, some of the most playable cards in the game are lesser known characters like Hiram, like Madame Medusa. Meta-defining card, and is the bad guy from a movie that
Right.
not many people have seen, compared to some of your bigger hits. So yeah, I love the fact that not only do they bring these characters into the game, they really put them in the limelight as well. We see a Grand Martella coming down there to help just push forward.
Yeah, and I think he played How Far I'll Go as well. So he's looking now at those two cards. One goes into his inkwell and one into his hand. And I'm not
Yeah.
sure what he drew there.
Yeah, it's one of the great things about How Far I Go is you don't have to show either of them.
Right.
So yeah, it's just really great. It does everything the game wants you to do: drawing cards, inking cards to help with your resources. Just a really, really solid card.
Yeah, and I think it looks like maybe Ivan is sitting at 7 ink now, which of course opens it up to a be prepared. And now 8 ink, I think.
Yeah,
It's a little hard to tell with the sleeves and the lighting, but
yeah,
that means Tamatoa could be coming around the corner, like you said,
yeah.
which can change things quite quickly.
Yeah, like I said, the longer this game goes on, the more just huge bombs that Ivan's going to be able to put down. The Tamatoas, the Maleficents, the Lucky Dimes, all of these big sort of win conditions for the game, really. Whereas
Sure.
Jonathan's very aware the longer the game goes on, this is a very low to the ground deck. It may well cap out at sort of 4 or maybe 5 or 6 ink. But it does mean that the longer the game's on, you're going to be putting down smaller bodies that are just going to be challenged and eaten up by Ivan's bigger threats.
Yep.
So here we see a snake deal with that Queen of Hearts. She's really got some value out of her. She's been around for a long time.
She
And then we
has
crest with
been.
Ursula. Again, Jonathan's just absolutely racing here to
Yep.
the end with Law. We see a goat come down as well.
Another goat. Yeah, and if he could get that goat to bounce a little bit, that would do him a lot of good. He's lost some of those bigger questers. I think everything on the board right now only quests for 1.
Mm-hmm.
And he gets another Flynn down, so that's great. Yeah.
So yeah, we're currently showing 6 on board, which would put him to 19. So a goat bounce is enough. Obviously, Ivan does have a turn here where he can challenge into a smorgasbord of stuff here. Lyle, Ursula, Snake, very much all on the block here to be picked off through challenges. Lyle, probably the first one you're going to get rid of, because he does see other things being banished and removes law from you. Obviously, Ivan only at 2 law, but still, every single law matters in these
Absolutely.
games.
Yeah, so he has that Maui, so he does have to challenge there. And we're going to see him do that and take out Lyle, just like you said. So.
Yeah. Definitely think it's the right line there. That obviously Mary could have taken any of those things out pretty comfortably. But yeah, Lyle is definitely the one to get rid of. It's just the one that's seeing the others. At the moment now, Snake and Ursula, much less of a threat. Again, once they come down, their ability is all about on them entering play. Snake being able to return something to your hand, the Ursula being able to look at your opponent's hand. Once they come down, they're just smaller bodies that aren't so much of a threat as something like
Sure.
Lyle is.
And it looks like Jonathan may be out of cards in his hand. I don't see anything on the table there, and he doesn't have anything in hand.
Yeah,
So
it's one of the problems with the deck really is that it can run out of speed a little bit, especially as long as the game goes on. There isn't that much card draw in the deck. You have Rabbit, which is, let's be honest, an incredible card draw tool. There's Friends on the other side, which again, being sang with the double Ursula Singer is pretty awesome. But if we're just not seeing them, you're very quickly going to put stuff down. We see a Medusa down, picking off the Flynn. So yeah, so such an amazing start for Jonathan, right up into the double figures as quick as possible, did exactly what he needed to do. But here you just see that as long as this game goes on, the more of a handle that Ivan will have on it with those late game tools.
yeah, and that harem is doing a lot of work with being able to banish those items every time he quests and drawing 2 cards.
Yeah. Yeah, we've got Harm there picking off the popsicle. Sorry, we drew. And we also had a develop your brain. So again, just continuing to put that ink down. We see a bell go into the inkwell, which is interesting. It must mean, his hand is just absolutely full.
He just
all
took
of the
every
big
card that he wanted. Any card that Ivan could have wanted in his hand, it looks like he had. He has Lucky Dime, Tamatoa. It looks like that he has Maleficent, Monstrous Dragon there.
Yeah.
So yeah, Bell going into the inkwell does not surprise me when he has a hand like that.
Yeah, I mean, Bell or Tamatoa are going to be good finishers for this at the moment. Tamatoa is going to be able to bring back some items. Obviously, with the dime coming down the turn after, it does class as an item as well. So Tamatoa is most likely going to be questing for 4, maybe 5, depending on what Ivan's next turn looks like. And then the dime also just seeing that 5 as well, instantly going to catch up. With nothing else happening, it would put into 13. And all of that work that Jonathan's done in the early game is then instantly sort of, just sort of pulled up onto him as we move into the end game here. So yeah, exactly as you would expect here. Unfortunately, the longer this game goes on, the more Ivan's just going to have a hold of it.
Yeah, and Jonathan right now, he did quest with Ursula there. He has another goat in hand, it looks like, and he is really thinking here what he wants to do. What do you think he's thinking here?
Yeah, if it's just a goat in hand, I kind of feel like you just have to put it down. Yes, there's the possibility of a be prepared, but Ivan's board is pretty well established as well, and the bee preps aren't going to give you 2 off the goats. So putting the goat down here, puts you to 15. I don't mind that at all. Next turn, we can quest to 18 and then a bounce. A snake will take it. I can't see the Ursula surviving the turn. Ivan's going to be doing that exact same math in his head right now. So definitely that Ursula is probably going to go away from Maui. We're also questing with the goat. Again, just going through that math and thinking, how far do I need to push this so that if I do find a bounce, it's going to be enough. But
yes.
I think we probably we didn't see the B prep. We may well see the Maleficent come down just to take a turn off, but I feel instead we're probably going to start getting a little bit closer to Ivan's win condition here, which is going to be the Tamatoa and the dime. Oh no, we do see the Maleficent come down.
Maleficent,
okay,
yes.
So Maleficent comes down, takes out the goat.
Yeah.
So that's a risky play. Well, I say risky. He's most definitely got it all planned out in his head, but I feel that's a little risky because it's just pushing closer and closer. Although Jonathan is in top deck mode, so he's now requiring a goat and something to bounce it back, or a goat surviving the turn. Here, Fishbone Quill has done all its work, so Hiram is going to banish it there for a bit more card draw. We see another dime. We're just moving cards around. That's just the first one, I think. So yeah, it doesn't seem close if you just look at the lore totals, but this game has been very, very close.
Yeah, with cards like Tamatoa and Lucky Dime, even though Ivan is sitting at 4 lore right now, like you said, it can literally turn on a Lucky Dime this game.
Another thematic win from
exactly.
the design team, and also the Tamatoa caring about shiny things and the Lucky Dime caring about him. There's no way this stuff doesn't happen by accident, folks. Like, this is really well put together, so that all these cards sort of you can just tell a story through the game as you're playing. Yes, we're looking at some really high competitive play here, but you still you just see those Disney narratives running through all of the cards, and it's really great to see.
Yes, I love it. Tamatoa, of course, has the song that he sings, so shiny. And he loves those items. When he comes into play, you get to get an item from your discard that you can bring
Yes.
back into your hand. And then for every item that you have on the board, Tamatoa gains 1 lore, correct?
That's right.
Yeah.
So we're
Yeah.
seeing Develop Brain here, probably just digging for items at this point, I feel, because the more you can get down on the board next turn, the bigger Tamatoa is going to be. The lucky dime is a 7-drop. So I think I've absolutely lost track of Ivan's ink here, but I think he's into double
Yes.
figures.
I think he's
So we
got
can get
10,
so we
11.
can get dime down and another item. It's gonna be a lot of lore here. So
Oh.
we see a crab come down. Really not a great top deck there. Crab really wants
It's
to have
not.
something else on the board, unfortunately. Jonathan's just gonna put a body down
and
just to kind of keep the
just
pressure up.
and it doesn't stay for long because
Doesn't
Madame
need it.
Medusa came down.
Can we afford both? Let's have a look. Can we afford the dime coming down here as well? He's just
Oh, it
doing the
looks like
math.
he's bringing a bell out.
Instead, we're
Okay.
getting the bell again. That's a great closer for this. We now have way more than 10 ink in the inkwell. So Bell's going to be able to quest for 5 next turn. Tamatoa questing there. Yes, it's only 1, but it does again allow you to bring back the item. And we're just using that final ink to play the Popsicle. Card draw again. You just absolutely see this engine online in the later half of the game. It feels like they're so far behind. I can't play this deck, honestly, because I hate the idea of losing until I start winning. It stresses me out way too much. I am not good at the comeback mechanic that this deck is absolutely built around. Just getting all of your resources in, dealing with the threats as much as you can, which we saw there through the Maui, the Queen of Hearts earlier in the game, but then just absolutely running your opponent out of steam and just absolutely popping off from it. Jonathan's taking a look at the deck. I can't possibly think that he could draw here.
What does he have?
Just flips it over. Merfolk, but it isn't even gonna get the next turn.
Yeah, he did have that snake in hand. So if he had a goat, the top deck there at the end, that could have won him the game. But
there you go.
Yeah, he did not get it. Goats can win games, but he
100%. Goat for game happens
unfortunately
quite often.
did not do it. But well played by Ivan. That Ruby Sapphire deck, like you said, it's a little slow in the beginning, but once you get ramped up, there's quite a lot of those bigger cards that can do a lot of work. So
yeah, Ivan taking the win there on the draw as well. Jonathan will have gone first there, so really great to see. And yeah, it did exactly what he wanted to. I think there are some key moments in that game that really shifted it. Even just as simple as that Ursula on 2 missing a song. Is a pretty big thing as the game goes later on. You really want to get rid of those ram tools. Let's see if Jonathan can do it in game 2.
Yes, and of course, at the top 64, we've moved now to a best of 3 format. So Ivan did take game 1, but Jonathan still has a chance to win the match here if he can take game 2 and 3. So we will see what they can do. Now, what do you think Jonathan is thinking here? Now he's seen the deck. He knows what's coming. Is it still just push as quickly as possible?
Absolutely, yeah. It's really the gameplay doesn't shift that much. Jonathan is going to want to get as big a bodies down, questing bodies that is, early on, and just really push that lore total as high as possible. Again, we see the ideal opening for both players here. Jonathan with the Merfolk, Ivan with the Popsicle. Really, we're just going to want to see as much lore gained as possible and make Ivan have the answers. We don't see a 2-drop Ursula here. That's interesting. I do wonder whether it would have still been worth maybe mulliganing into one of those because, even though we didn't see it hit in game 1, which is very aware that there are a lot of singers here. Ivan there taking again into the Queen, and wow, this is almost like we're seeing the exact same game.
Same game, with him and bringing down that Queen with Rush, taking out Curse Merfolk and discarding another Be Prepared.
Yeah, we see a Maleficent this time, giving Jonathan a draw. But absolutely great playing from Ivan there. Just having the answer for that Merfolk, not feeling bad about discarding a card. You really can't against these cards like Flynn and Merfolk. You just have to get them off the board because at some point you're going to have to get rid of them. If you do it later, they've gained lore. If you do it early, this problem solved. It's very much a sort of rip the band-aid off kind of thing.
Sure. Yeah. Like we've talked about before, they can make players make bad decisions, and you may want to just leave it there on the board because you don't want to discard a card in your hand. But the longer they stay there, the worse it's going to get for you. So taking those threats out early, the better.
Yes, absolutely.
Now, Ivan is deciding what he's going to do here. He has not inked yet, I don't believe. So he does have a Develop Your Brain in hand. I think I see a fishbone quill. Is that something that you think he's going to want to get on the board here on turn 3?
I mean, yeah, I think so. I'm not a massive Sapphire player, so I'm never quite sure of the lines. It's usually people a lot more big brain than me running these kind of decks. But yeah, as far as I'm concerned, Fishbone Quill on 3 is almost your optimal play. It may
Yeah.
just be that he's looking at his hand and thinking, well, I kind of want all of these. I don't necessarily want to use these
One
for
ink.
extra ink. Yeah,
Which
because
really
basically with
can be like the hardest decision that you have to make sometimes when playing Lorcana is which card do you put in your inkwell?
yeah, exactly. I mean, really, with Fishbone Quill, you're almost bypassing turn 4 is what you're saying is going to happen there. So there we
Sure.
see Queen of Hearts go into Flynn, and we pitch a Tamatoa to that, discarding that there. So we see Grandma Tala go in the inkwell. She is used to spend onto the quill. And then we're just looking here. It's a tough call there, really, because you really want to have that turn 4 Hiram that we're looking at.
Yes, which he does have in hand.
Yeah,
Yes.
so we may well just ink the Develop Your Brain here. Kind of cutting out the middleman with Develop Your Brain there, really. It's going to get you ink one way or the other. And now another popsicle and a card draw means that Hiram's going to have choice of options next turn of what to banish.
Those popsicles are delicious. So
Sure are. Hiram loves them.
yes.
Yeah. So we
So
see Maleficent singing Friends on the Other Side. Absolute classic set 1 placed. I love still seeing that so further into the game.
yes.
It really was one of the best things. I still is great, but one of the best things you could ever do at the launch of the game. And it's still great to still see it happen. So at this point, I think Jonathan's looking at that castle and thinking, will he have the Maui again?
Right. Yeah. So we
And
see him play the rabbit instead, which gives him another card in hand. He does have a couple songs there, but unfortunately, he doesn't have the Ursula. I don't think to be able to sing those songs twice, which I know in this deck you really want to be able to do.
yeah, it's where a lot of the value from the deck comes. But also with Ivan's deck, a lot of stuff I can see a Mother Knows Best there. A lot
Yeah.
of stuff that you don't want to really bounce to his hand. Hiram comes down
True.
into the battlefield, into the playability. Queen of Hearts, is Rush, so doesn't really lose any tempo there. Obviously, you're having to get Ivan to replay them and losing a bit of tempo in how the ink is spent, but a lot of the stuff in Ivan's deck is almost immune to the Mother Knows Best for that reason.
Yes. So we see a Madame Medusa that Ivan just picked up off that popsicle and a bell in hand along with the monstrous dragon. So he's got some bigger cards there.
And very soon they'll be online as well, I think. Perfectly fine trade there, I think. Again, Ivan's going to be knowing Jonathan's deck, knowing that bouncing is a possibility. And whilst the Maleficent isn't the most incredible bounce target, it's still going to be allowing you to draw a card on play. So isn't the worst thing to refuel your hand with.
Yeah. So he didn't quest there with Hiram, and which is an interesting choice. Do you think that was the right move there?
Yeah, it kind of makes sense. I think he's probably going to be looking at sort of crab and fox lions at this point.
Mm,
Hiram is a fantastic card, quests well, but he is only a 1/6, so doesn't trade very well into stuff. So
yeah.
if we'd have saw maybe rabbit into Hiram and then a fox coming down and bouncing the rabbit, it's card draw and it's finishing off Hiram. So yeah, it makes sense to have a turn to see what how Jonathan wants to develop the board. We do see the castle come down, which again is going to require a Maui answer
Yeah.
here, and we use that last ink to move rabbit over to it.
Yep. So the Queen's Castle, of course, if you have for every character that you have at the Queen's Castle at the beginning of your turn, you get to draw another card for each character. So I love putting the rabbit over there. And so if a rabbit is banished, then he gets to draw a card. And if he sits there on the castle, he gets to draw an additional card at the start of his turn.
Yeah, you're almost future-proofing the card there.
Exactly.
You're guaranteeing you're going to get something off it no matter what happens,
Yeah.
really. So that's good.
And of course the 2 lore gain, which is great. And Jonathan really wants to see, like you said, with this deck, he wants to gain lore as quickly as possible before Ivan can get to the point where he's putting down these big cards.
Yeah. We see Ivan just having the answers here at every single point. Madame Medusa coming down and getting rid of the rabbit does draw the card for Jonathan there, but yeah, just always having just what he needs at the right moment here. Castle does stick around for a turn this game though, and starts the lore gain there.
Yeah. Yeah, there's so much skill involved in this game, and knowing your deck, knowing what you might face with your opponents, and just having the skill to play the game well, but luck plays a big part in it too. What cards you're going to draw, and what cards your opponent draws, and sometimes things will go in your favor. And I forget who I heard say this, but they said that opportunities where skill and luck meet.
Oh,
So
that's great.
yeah.
Yeah, that's a really good way of putting it. But yeah, exactly. And I think you see that most maybe in Ruby than any other color. Just has an answer for every single board state. If you've gone so wide, there's the be prepared. If you're going tall, there's the Medusas and the Tremaines. If you've
Yeah.
got locations, there's the Maui. Although
There's
we do
the
see,
Maui.
yeah, we do see double locations here, so only one of them is getting rid of. So we're looking at 4 lore next turn with the Merfolk and one of the locations. Really having to think here about oh, there we go, with the Queen of Hearts getting rid of one of them, and then the Medusa probably starts work on the other one rather than quest. Yeah, there we go. So we see Medusa put 4 on the second location through a challenge there.
Yeah, I think that's smart. Like we saw last game, Ivan can do a lot of lore gain later in the game. So for now, he doesn't want to see that Queen's Castle continue to sit there. So he could take
No.
out the one with the Maui and the Queen rush coming in, and yeah, next turn that Queen's Castle will be gone.
Yeah, exactly. But does see 2 lore off it. And also, Jonathan's going to be sitting here thinking, if you can keep putting down these problems, at the moment, Ivan's card draw engine just isn't online. We haven't seen the Hiram come back down. So, they're both going to be starting to run out of resources. And arguably, Jonathan's deck does a little better in that point where it is, top deck mode and lower card count mode. Usually, it'll mean that pretty much anything Jonathan draws at this point, he can put down. Maybe even 1, 2, or 3 things onto the board. So that is definitely going to be in his favor. But yeah, still, the longer this game goes on, the more it's going to be moving into Ivan's favor again.
Yeah. What do you think here of this Pinocchio coming down?
I think at this point it's probably just a body on the board. That really you're rarely wanting to be challenging. Yeah, so we just see skimmed over that a little bit. So Snake came down, bounced the Merfolk, and then the last ink was used to replay the Merfolk. Sometimes they'll skip the full process because it's clear to both of them what's happening. But I know we have a lot of people watching at various levels of the game, so I wanted to point out what happened there. He was able to replay all of those with the ink he had. Yeah, but I think at this point, Pinocchio, it's just a body on the board. It's just 1 lore, just to keep that pressure on.
Sure. And also with potentially, some of his characters getting taken out by Madame Medusa or potentially Lady Tremaine, having more options on the board is going to be better.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, just if we do see Tremaine coming down, you've got a much better choice of what you sort of sacrifice to the banish trigger of hers there. Yeah.
I don't think he actually has Tremaine in his deck now that I'm looking. Nope, just Madame Medusa.
Mm-hmm.
He also has a couple scars in there, which we haven't seen yet, but that's a good one to bring down because that can really clear the board. Because every time damage happens to an opposing character, it gets to ready. So haven't seen that yet.
Almost acts like extra copies of Be Prepared, really.
Yes, it really does.
You need a slightly different board state. You need to have the opposing characters ready. But yeah, it's just another really solid answer to a lot of the problems in Jonathan's deck. So we do see Hiram coming back down again there, popping the Popsicle for some card draw. And then we have a Maleficent, 2 Maleficents, looks like a Fishbone. Yeah, so they're going to be really clutch here if they're online from as far as the ink goes.
Yeah, but pair of dragons in hand is not too bad.
And here Ivan's able to actually get on the board lore-wise because he knows full well that Jonathan's stuff is not challenging. It's there to quest. It's there to keep that number high. So just, normally rush characters like Queen of Hearts, they're not questers, but at this point, they're pretty safe to just start chipping away at that lore total to help as the game goes on a little bit later. And again, we see that 2-drop Ursula just not able to find a song. I'm guessing Jonathan was really hoping to see a Be Prepared there.
Yeah.
But also, at this point, just like with the Pinocchio the turn before, it may just well be a body on the board is what Jonathan's looking for at this point.
Sure. And it doesn't let him still look at Ivan's hand, so he knows what to expect. He sees those 2 dragons there and knows that they're coming down next turn, or at least one of them is coming down next turn. So with that in mind, and with all this that Ivan has on the board, what do you think Jonathan's best move here is just questing with everything.
I don't know whether turning everything sideways is the right call, because it just gets cleaned up and then we're back to nothing for Jonathan. So I've always said this: if you can't turn a Curse Merfolk sideways and quest with them, they shouldn't be in the deck. They should always be turning every turn, giving them an answer. Again, we see the Lyle come down there, giving the Hiram Reckless. Solid turn, but I'm just gonna start getting outplayed by the bigger bodies of Ivan's end game here.
Yeah. He does have that monstrous dragon, but that's about, there's nothing else that he has. Like, no Lucky Dime. He doesn't have Tamatoa yet come in. What do you think that Ivan's looking for here as we're getting later into the game?
Yeah, absolutely. Just going to be looking for those key sort of finishers,
yeah.
the dimes, the Tamatoas, the bells.
Bell.
Monstrous Dragon is still just a good questing body, quests for 2 with good stats, and is able to clear something off the board. So I do, absolutely wouldn't have no problem playing one of them here. But it'll be interesting to see how we close this one out.
Yeah. So I think Jonathan quested there with Pinocchio. Is that what I think he did. So he's up to 14 now, I believe, with 6 on the board.
Yeah. So enough, but again, we've still got a Maui there with full health. We have a Medusa there that is happy to go into something at this point as well. We have the Reckless Hiram's going to be interesting there. He's going to have to try and find a nice way to hit that. Most probably goes into the Merfolk, as long as we're happy to get rid of something.
Yeah.
But yeah, it'll be interesting to see how this one goes out. Reckless. Instead he had
a
how far I'll go. So he's able to sing there. So again, just shows you one of the weaknesses of Reckless, really. Yes, Hiram there isn't able to quest, but an answer has been found so that he doesn't have to challenge into something. We're just checking. We have plenty of ink there for Maleficent. And we're going to use that to get rid of Lyle.
Rourke. Yes. Yep. Smart move there. Yeah, Sapphire is hardly ever in need of extra ink.
No. But at this point, he's going to be really hoping to see a dime, and then if we can play dime and a few other bodies or a larger body, then it's just going to end the game that much quicker.
Yep, and he's going to banish Fishbone Quill there with his other Hiram, so he gets to draw 2 more cards, and he does have, and there's that Lucky Dime.
What a double top deck, Tamatoa and Lucky Dime. Off that Hiram there. Fishbone Quill doing exactly what it needs to do in the mid game, but yeah, like you said, at some point, even high double figures of ink should be enough for any Sapphire player.
Yes.
So yeah, we're able to get to pop that there and with the Hiram and just find all the pieces he needs to close this game out, I think.
Yeah. So Jonathan here is left with just Pinocchio and Ursula, and I might, Pascal. He didn't draw much else there on his turn, unfortunately.
Yeah. Again, Taylor's oldest time with these decks. Unfortunately, the longer this game goes on, the less sort of big issues Jonathan's going to have to throw in front of Ivan, and Ivan at this point can probably just start ignoring Jonathan's board for a little and just do what he needs to do instead. So we see see the Tamatoa coming down. We see a Popsicle come down. Tamatoa quests for 1 extra. We see another one in hand now as well. Tamatoa gains a lore for every item he can see on your side of the board. So he's currently questing for 2. Next turn, I'm assuming we see Lucky Dime come down and maybe another item. Happy to ink a Tamatoa at this point, just so that whatever gets drawn, is going to be giving him more and more answers, more and more items for that Tamatoa there, I think.
Absolutely. Yeah, and he's going to quest out with pretty much everything he can this turn, and I think that puts him up to 10, maybe.
The Hiram's Birthday, Maleficent, yeah.
So. Yeah, he's playing this deck as well as you could possibly hope for, and he has just been so lucky with those draws, top decking, Lucky Dime.
Yeah, I mean, it's lucky to see them both off the top deck, but he has played into that top deck. He's had the Hirams down, he's had the items down, he's known when the Fishbone Quill has done enough for him that he's comfortable in banishing it with the Hiram to find the last ones. So yeah, there's an element in luck there, but a lot of the times with these games you can make your own luck. He's done exactly what he needs to do there. Found the pieces he needed to. Jonathan here just trying to, as much as he can, close this out. Again, Ursula doesn't see an answer. Ursula will have seen that dime, though, which I feel like it might give him the closeout. Let's have a look. And we did pop the popsicle there from the Hiram last turn. So we currently have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 lore on board. The lucky dime will give us 8. Currently going to be targeting the Maleficent. So it doesn't feel like he's quite ready to close it out. So he's going to start just getting rid of a few of the issues over there on Jonathan's side.
Yeah, I mean, he did pull a bell when he drew, and he also has a scar now in hand. But I don't know that the scar is necessarily the play here, because he really just wants to quest at this point, right?
Yeah, to an extent, yes, you do want to start closing the game out now, but there is always that shadow of the goat hanging over.
Shadow of the goat, yes.
The fact that Jonathan is only at 5 ink is definitely something Ivan's going to have been paying attention to, which means it's, goat plus a bounce target on the same turn isn't really likely to happen. But even still, very quickly, an Emerald Amethyst deck in double figures of lore can just come out of nowhere and finish it off. But I do think I do think it's the right play there, just to finish off while there's no items out for Hiram to banish through questing. He can just sort of pick off that Pascal there, who's no longer evasive. I think definitely the right play here, and I think Ivan there is just there we go. So we see the bell come down,
and there's the bell,
and that's going to be the win condition here, I think, because Bell will be questing for 5 next turn.
Yeah,
and that's all Jonathan needed to see. And we finish it out. Wow, incredible run for Jonathan yesterday, but unfortunately just a very difficult matchup for him there. Congratulations to Ivan. Both players played their decks fantastically there, but Ivan just had the answer every single turn.
He really did. Yeah, that Ruby Sapphire matchup against the Emerald Amethyst was just tough for Jonathan. He played it as well as he could have, but in this case, Ivan just won out in the end. So congratulations to both players. Well played. And I think we're ready to go to a break now, and we will see you with the top 32.
Everybody, welcome back down to the floor. Here's another one of our top 64 winners, Ivan, playing Ruby Sapphire. And you were telling me you weren't super excited about seeing the matchup that you had here in your first round.
Right. It's because Ruby Sapphire usually takes a little bit to ramp up, and my matchup, my opponent just ramps. No, sorry, not ramp. They're very aggressive, so they don't really give me room to ramp. Because of that, it's a very unfavorable matchup for me.
Yeah, they can come out of the gates really, really fast and give you some problems. And you were talking to me about how your deck is built just a little bit differently than some of, like, say, the stock versions of this deck. Why don't you tell us a little bit about that, what your difference is, and did that affect the matchup at all?
I think the only thing that's an outlier is I don't play Lady Tremaine. Lady Tremaine doesn't have that many target for me to hit against all the aggro decks, Amber Steel Song, and even Ruby Amethyst, which is the most represented deck. I don't really have good targets. That card's really only for mirror match, and so I opted not to add any in my deck. I think that's the only outlier that I have.
Well, it seems to be doing really well for you this weekend. You've gotten through the first round today. Congratulations, and good luck the rest of the day.
Thank you.